What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tattoos and Recovery. I'm your host, Wyatt Thomas, and today we have a special guest here in the building, my father, Dad. How you doing? Say hi.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming down and getting ready to go to Florida, so we'll be taking the airport today. But I wanted to talk a little bit today about, what we were talking about last time on the podcast, about the loved ones and going through recovery. And so I thought, what better idea, my dad came down and he's like, well, you should have someone from a loved one perspective. And I was like, okay, come on in. And so he's here, and just a little background, man. What's your background? What happened through life? Just
Well, I had you, but no, man. I grew up. I was a policeman for 25 years. I retired, and retired back in 2007,
yeah,
and worked.
rental houses.
Yeah, I worked. I worked construction. Pretty much full time since I was about 10, and in the rental house business. And
Yeah.
then when I retired, at the same time, my dad passed away.
Yeah,
So
we built pole barns.
yeah, well,
Me
yeah,
and you built pole barns.
So I had a little thing going. When each one of my kids turned a teenager, we had summer projects.
Yeah,
So we built a couple pole barns. I built a pole barn with my oldest son, Paulie, and then when Wyatt got to be a teenager, built another pole barn.
yeah,
So I used him and his buddies for labor.
Marky getting hogtied by Mike. Remember that? Mike and Paul. Remember you get a hammer getting thrown at him?
Well, I wasn't getting thrown at him.
It fell out of the
He
holster.
just happened to be underneath it.
Yeah.
We made him wear a hard hat. It was all right.
It was all good.
Yeah. So that, and other than that, I mean, life was normal.
So when you, just more backstory, when, going through school, and obviously my mother, your wife, passed away when I was a young age, and so that was hard. And what was it like kind of like raising me growing up and going to school? I know it was a lot. They know I'm a lot, so I just kind of want to get it from the old man's perspective.
It was a lot. Like he says, well, wife's mom passed away 2003.
Yeah.
And he was about 7 years old. So, first grade, he was a handful, but we managed. I kept him in activity.
Yeah, that was the one thing that
He wrestled, football, all the youth sport things,
Yeah.
and then I got him into bicycling, and then we started motocrossing.
yeah.
And life was good until he got into high school.
Yeah. So I asked my dad about his background and stuff like that, just so you guys know that what the story is about to unfold right now, it can happen to anybody, and that's why I give this background. It doesn't matter if you're a cop, president, governor, millionaire, it doesn't matter. It could happen to anybody. So, like you said, getting into high school, I got in a real bad, just a crazy, I don't know. I didn't wake up one day and go, I'm just going to, throw my life away and this and that. It gradually got, hanging out at a buddy's house this weekend. Next weekend, well, we're going to hang out Friday and Saturday. And, I was going to bonfire parties and this and that. And, being a kid and stuff like that. And it just, one thing led to another. And so I, got into high school. I got in some trouble. I did get, suspended for drugs and stuff like that. And, I don't want to go into details. One day I'll tell my testimony when we get to a certain part, but I want to be, just want to get this from your point of view. So what was that like going through high school and stuff like that, and just me going down that path of, destruction? Yeah.
It's tough, man. And, like I say, things are good. We were actively involved in, racing bicycles, hiking, motocrossing. And then when he got into high school, he started high school sports. And so it was still pretty good, but then he got in trouble in ninth grade. And, we went through a couple programs. And then he got in trouble again in 10th grade. And we again went through a couple programs through Catholic Charities.
Yeah.
And
But as a parent, what was out there? Like, what was for you? Like, what, when you were trying to help me out and get me into somewhere, I mean, was there anything like?
that's hard. It's a difficult situation to try to find a place without spending 30, 40, 50 grand.
Right.
And I got into some private counseling with him, and plus Catholic charity counseling. So, that took him through his high school years.
Yeah.
And then after he graduated high school, he got the big boy job, making big money, kind of off on his own. And then that started. That wasn't too bad. And then he started. When he started getting 21 years old and making that kind of money, he was started hanging out at a local bar. And I suggested he probably not hang out at that bar because it's kind of like I refer to it as it's kind of like that Hangover movie when they lose the one guy.
Teddy. They lose Teddy.
They lose Teddy.
Yeah.
And then the storyline there is Bangkok's got him.
Yeah.
So, and this particular bar has that type of reputation. Once you get a hold in there,
Yeah.
it's like now the bar's got you.
Right. Yeah. It's
So-
a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And he went into it
100 miles an hour.
100 miles an hour, man.
Yeah.
And and I could see him going downhill. And
Yeah.
as a parent, you try to make suggestions,
Mm.
and you try. But when you're 21, 22 years old, what are you going to do?
What are you gonna say?
You can just make suggestions. Don't don't drive. Don't do this.
Right.
Don't do that. But that falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
But so years go on, a couple years, 3 years go on, and then he ran into a devastating situation
Yeah.
that changed his life and resulted in why we're here today.
Yeah.
But so that's devastating. But one of the big things as a parent is it's what do you do?
Right.
There's not a lot of back then there wasn't a lot of resources available. Because the school at the time, they don't want anything to do with you. They just kick you out, and you figure, go fend for yourself.
Right.
And which is a bad policy. They should not do that. They
Right.
should have in-house counseling.
Yes.
And because you're giving them a free pass when you kick them out like that.
Yeah.
But it's the big thing is and we called all over the place, all over the country, trying to find a place. And
But like you said, you had to spend 30, 40 grand.
you got to spend 30, 40
You know
grand
what I mean?
if you want counseling.
Yeah, it's not something where you can go and try it out and it's we'll take 10 grand now and then every month is another 10. And so I remember you looking for places and you sitting at the table trying to figure out what to do, and there was just like nothing. And
Yeah, insurance don't cover it. Blue Cross
Right.
Blue Shield don't cover it.
right.
They might have been back in the day, but they don't do that anymore.
Right, and there was no podcast going out or nobody, on video,
there's very limited resources when you have a situation like this, and
Yeah.
the kid has to be willing.
Yes.
As a parent and they're under 18, you can, you're going to go do this.
Right.
And I did, man. I drove him there, picked him up every day for 9 months.
Yeah.
And but now he is 21, 22, 23, 24. 24. I think it was 24.
No, I was 23. Now or back? No, back when.
then.
Back then, about 20, from 21 to about 23, I ran wide open, no fear, no nothing, didn't care. On my Harley, 110 miles an hour, and I still remember this day. My dad would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning while I'm walking in the door and asking me questions, and he's like suggesting things. Hey, man, hey, man, he'd like tell me a story about a friend or something. Like he wouldn't come out and say it because he wanted to, he didn't want to push me away. I get what he was doing at the time, and but he would say stories of, hey, man, I had a friend, his name was, something Fast Eddie or something, some kind of name, and he'd tell me a story how Fast Eddie died, and he died riding into a wall or something full of cocaine and whiskey. So, it's not like he didn't try. What he said earlier is I was not willing to give up yet, and try to change my life and try to fix it. But by all means, he didn't let up at all, and that to me was very, very. Now looking back at it, I appreciate that. And, that's why, yes, last podcast I was saying, as a loved one, don't give up. Don't, if it doesn't work the first time.
Let me stop you there because at a point,
yeah,
there's a certain point that comes along where tough love comes into play. You can only go through that nonsense for so long before you're like, oh, man. And it starts affecting you.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours coined the term chronic sadness. So you can only go through that chronic sadness for so long.
Right.
And then, and we're going on 2, 3, 4 years now of chronic sadness for me because I'm watching him just, spiral out of control and go downhill. And so it comes to the point where you either go voluntarily or we're packing up your truck, and it's going to be a while before we make eye contact again.
Yeah, that hit deep, and when I heard that, I didn't think about 30 seconds, and I went and got a packed a bag. I said, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah, he's ready, and I called a good friend of mine, and he suggested Life Challenge Ministries.
Yeah.
And so why got on board. He went on board, and he did a year program at Life Challenge Ministries.
Yeah.
Which is also a branch of Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And so he went in and did a year in the program in biblical studies.
Yeah.
And it changed his life. Kind of changed my life too. I mean, because it's if you ever have a chance to go by a Teen Challenge or a Life Challenge or anything like that, they're all over the world. And that's what they're there for. They're there for people with addiction.
Yeah.
And they've been around a long time. And so that's what it come down to. And, out of all these pay-to-play places, the Life Challenge, Teen Challenge program works.
It's awesome. I loved it. I still go back there to this day, and I love the smells of it. I love everything about it, man. It's just a great place to go. I always tell guys because they come up to me and they're like, "Oh gosh, this place is a military, blah blah blah, this and that," and they just give all the excuses in the world. And I'm saying, dude, if you do this program, and stop going against it, it'll change your life.
Yes, it will.
And that's what I did. I walked in there open arms. Like I didn't walk in there with a fight in me. I was ready to go. I remember I pulled my own money out of my own bank account, and I had a bag worth 7 days worth of clothes, man. I had no idea what was going on. Dad, he didn't know what was going on, and we just sat down and we listened to a close friend of ours, and he's like, "Hey, man, you guys trust me?" And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, you're gonna do this," and I was like, "Okay." And a year later, man, it changed my life, and it helped me through all aspects of my life now. And I'm married now. Going on almost 5 years clean, and helping other people, speaking on stages. And but it's still to this day, my own, he still supports me, and still to this day, we kind of feed off each other about the whole Life Challenge thing. We always get a laugh out of it. I remember I just called you the other day. I went to Life Challenge with my buddy Lucas, who I have on here, and we're cutting hair, hanging out, and they were doing phone calls. And I was like, "Hey man," I asked the staff member on there. He's like, "Can I jump on there real quick?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, go ahead." And I did it because, when you call from a Life Challenge phone, like if I call my father, it will pull up as Life Challenge Ministries calling, like the caller ID. And so I knew he would get a chuckle out of that, and he answered that with the biggest smile. He was like, "Life Challenge Ministries." And I was like, "What's up, Dad? It's your son." And you know, you could just hear in his voice. He like knew like I wasn't back in the program. He was just calling because it was fun, and it was a good time.
Yeah,
So,
it's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
I mean, for you parents out there or loved ones or anybody, relatives
Yeah.
that are in a situation where you're watching somebody spiral out of control, you have
Yeah.
no idea what to do, and somebody's ready to change their lives.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. They have to submit, and they have to be ready.
Yeah.
You know, because we went through it, and he, you know, it comes to a point where you know, you're either going to live with chronic sadness and wither away to nothing, or you're going to cut ties and live your life, and they're going to live their life, and that's what we come down to. So when it went into the program, and for you people that have a loved one that's suffering with some type of addiction, you know that going to bed at night is very stressful because you don't know what's going to happen when you wake up. And the second he went into Life Challenge, it was like the big load is lifted off.
Yeah.
And you can go to bed at night knowing that he's safe. And that was the big turning point, knowing he's safe and, knowing he's safe for a year.
Yeah.
And
I knew you were sleeping good too, man. You could just tell I was sleeping good.
it's very stressful. It's very stressful when a
Yeah.
loved one's going through that. Very stressful, as anybody that's listening to this.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got somebody in their family that has got some addiction, and but it's tough.
Would you say, like, going back a little bit and just kind of, giving some advice, what would you say, like, if you're in that situation, your kid's struggling, you're like, what do? I don't have the money for this or that. Like, I mean, what happened? Like, what did you do in that situation that when I was laying in the hospital bed, what did you do?
I made a telephone call.
Right, you called
Yeah.
somebody.
I called a good friend of mine,
Yeah,
and he made a suggestion.
Yep.
And 3 days later, he was in a program.
yeah,
And it's not near as much as it's a little bit of, it's
it's $1,200 now for a whole year.
$1,200 for a whole year.
Yeah, and if it's
all you gotta do is show up with the clothes on your back.
yeah, if it's a hard time for you to get $1,200, they do a payment plan, and
Yeah.
you get a sponsor or something to help you out.
It's not a big deal, but the
Yeah.
program itself, if whoever it is, it don't matter. There's people in there 80 years old.
yeah.
What was that guy's name? Jeff
We call him Pops.
Pops.
Pops, man, he was great, dude. Praise Jesus.
Pops was an old biker,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I don't think he was 80, but he was.
he was up there, man. But he was an old biker in a club, man. He ran hard for years and years and
Long time.
years, man. Cranking meth. And,
he finally got into a position where he needed to change his life.
Yeah.
And he did the program as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's for anybody 18 to 80, 85, whatever it is,
Right.
but whatever you need. And you just got to willing to submit yourself and have faith in the Lord.
There you go, man. Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome hearing that. That's awesome. What did you do though after Life Challenge? After I graduated, you got a little riding buddy, didn't you? Or a traveling buddy, didn't you? Didn't you take in somebody for a little bit?
Oh, Jordan! No.
This is going from a man that big tough guy, biker, cop. And then goes to the situation, and then out of nowhere, he adopts this young kid.
Jordan went through the program too. Jordan,
but he was 18. He was young.
He was young. He
Yes.
just turned 18, probably 19 by the time. But he graduated the program as well. And Jordan had some handicaps,
Yeah.
and kicking him out by himself after that program did not seem right to me.
Right.
So I took him in for a few months, tried to teach him the norms of society.
How to scramble an egg, how to do this, how to do that.
Man, he didn't know how to do anything.
Right.
And like I say, he was a little mentally challenged. And so I took him in for a minute. Taught him, like why I said, I teach him how to scramble an egg and
fold clothes, do laundry. I mean, everything.
Yeah, just everything, man. Because he was, he went. So he was adopted, went with a family. Family seen he was a little bit challenged and maybe over their pay grade. So they put him in that military thing. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Some
terrible idea.
Some youth some youth challenge, military thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
They put him in that, and he ended up getting kicked out of that. So they found this program here, and being in their faith-based organization, they took him in, and they kept him. It probably wasn't the right program for him, but they kept him for a year, and then I seen that they were graduating him. And so I took him for, graduating.
I thought you took him for like a year.
No, man, it was about 3 months.
Yeah.
3-4 monds.
But you went everywhere together, man. You went up north with them. You took him to Florida.
Yeah, I did. Try to teach him the ways, the norms of society. And because he's never been really introduced to the norms of society.
Right.
He was always the one, I won't say locked in a shed, but basically, he was put out to pasture.
He was a mushroom.
He was put out to pasture and left to fend for himself, which was not a good situation.
And he came with Uncle George and learned the hard knocks of life.
He did.
Yeah.
So,
but that's just another great thing of that program, man. It opens your heart, and
it does.
And you want to help, man. And we're gonna wrap up here, and one piece of advice you can give to those parents out there that you think that might help out a little bit, like just one solid piece of advice that you can give them. What is it, Dad?
Don't.
I knew it's coming. I know it's gonna come.
Well, here's a couple bits of advice I will say.
And I'm gonna
say to the struggling parents is, first of all, when they hit high school, they're going to get introduced to things that
100%.
They're going to get introduced to things that
you didn't tell them about.
You did not tell them about. And so my advice would be, don't let them hang out. Don't let them hang out with anyone.
Yeah.
And when they're playing high school sports, pick them up after practice. Don't let them just wander off by themselves.
Yep.
I mean, he may be an A student. You know,
Right.
it's like I knew every single one of Wyatt's friends.
Right.
And
the good friends. Like, I had good friends, I had bad friends. And
I knew every single one of Wyatt's good and bad friends.
Yeah.
And it's like when he got in trouble, I was talking to one of the administrators about it, and I'm like, it's hard to see. I didn't see this coming because, he was hanging out with all the good kids and this and that. And she looked right at me. She goes, yeah, they're all good kids. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So, it don't matter. It don't matter if they're the honor roll student.
Yeah.
You need to keep an eye on them. Don't let them go
And that
out.
means talking to them. That means, hey, who's this guy? Who's this person? Going to meet the other parents, just making sure. Like, I remember you met, a buddy of mine, Tony's parents, multiple times. Like, they were good parents.
Oh yeah, I knew all the parents.
Mark's a good parent. They're good. Those are good people. Like, you knew they were good people. You knew they taught their kids right. Yeah. And we did dumb things with those guys. Sure. I mean, blow up propane tanks or this or that. That's fun. Riding dirt bikes. That's good, clean fun. But there was kids that I hung out with that, had a reputation in the community, and my dad knew about it and knew I was hanging out with them, and that's where it gets dicey. That's where it kind of starts going down.
Well, yeah, I didn't allow it. But,
right.
He'd sneak off on it. So my advice is to don't let him sneak off.
Yeah.
If you want to, because here's kind of how it started going south is, so him and his buddies would be over the house. Next thing you know, they're throwing each other through the drywall.
Gosh.
So I had to draw a line. I'm like, okay, fellas, we're not going to do that no more. So you guys are not welcome. And so
we just went to someone else's house and did it.
Somebody else's house did it. But,
yeah.
Just keep an eye on them.
Yeah, keep an eye.
Don't take it for granted that they're just because they're an A student.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted that they're following the path.
Their brain is a sponge. We soak up everything.
So.
Yeah. Wow, this is awesome. Never thought.
But just stay for you struggling parents. There, you can only eat up so much of that chronic sadness before it starts causing you health problems.
Yeah.
And.
Dude, you got a bunch of stuff, man. You had double pneumonia. You had
it got rough for a minute.
Psoriasis.
Everything kicked up because it was so sad, and there's nothing you can do except watch it go downhill. But and then it comes to the point where I'm over it. I'm done with it. I'm drawing a line in the sand, and it's either you go this way or I'm going that way. And unfortunately, I had to come to that, but it was the best thing that ever happened.
It did.
So if you got somebody that's struggling, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Life challenge.
Life Challenge, man. That's a great place.
Teen Challenge, wherever it is, they're all over the country.
They are. You go to Florida, he goes to Florida a lot. And while I was in the program, he went to Florida because he knew I was safe and everything. And so I remember getting a phone call like, man, they got a Teen Challenge down here. And he was like, oh, cool, Dad, blah, blah. Like next week, I went to church there. And he's just telling me all these things. And they got, down in Florida, man, they have a warehouse. They have like a Goodwill down there. They
have 2 Teen Challenge thrift stores that support the
thrift
program.
stores. Yeah,
and it's just outside. So they got a donation center
Yeah.
in Naples. So they got all kinds. They got a Taj Mahal program down there.
Yeah, and we went down there to that one, and you took me, and that was amazing down there. But like I was saying, they're all over the world, nationwide. And if you need help, again, I always tell this that my page is open. You can comment, you can message me. I have a YouTube channel, Tattoos and Recovery. I also have an email, tattoosandrecovery.com. Please, call, text, whatever. If you're a struggling parent and you don't know what's going on, call me and we can figure it out. We get to the bottom of it. I'm here for help. Heck, I even get my dad on speakerphone and he'll help through it, man. He's willing to do that. And with that, man, we're gonna wrap this up. I appreciate your dad coming on. This means a lot to me, and we thank you guys. And so as we were ending here, I just wanted to, just because of our faith and what me and my father believe in is Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, and He's the only way. We're going to do something new on this podcast, and we're going to start praying it out at the end. And in Life Challenge, we always had pray out, and at nights, when we climb into bed, there's 3 or 4 guys in a room, and someone would say, pray us out, and someone would have to pray, and I think, it's just a good thing to get in the habit of. So we're going to pray it out, and we're just, So, Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this podcast. We thank you for everything it's doing for other people. And you just allowing me to have the knowledge to do the technical things and the microphones. And we thank you for that. We thank you for my father coming on here and just giving his advice and his insight on being a parent. And just bless us and bless him on this trip as he takes off today, and Carol too. And thank you for everything you've done for us. And for your father, for your son dying on the cross for us. We thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
See you next time, y'all.